out in Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to One on One, a KC Sports Network podcast. I am your co-host, Mike DeVito, here as always with 9-year NFL veteran and Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion back in the good old days, Big Jeff Allen. And we're here to bring you all things Chiefs football from a player's perspective, which is really not a great perspective right now, but we're going to talk about that, Jeff. But before we talk about that, let's talk about something that's nice to think about, and that's those dang cookies you guys are cooking over there at Cookie Society. Our sponsors, Cookie Society Cookies, check them out, cookiesociety.com. They ship nationwide. You guys know the deal. You got to check them out this month. We got pumpkin spice, apple pie, all that stuff, getting ready for the fall. We're in here. We got Halloween coming up. I don't even, then Thanksgiving, you guys are going to have what, a turkey cookie?
Oh, man. Anything Thanksgiving will be on the menu.
Oh, man. I can't. Cranberry cookies. I'm excited. Make sure to check them out. Cookieside.com. We love our sponsors, and thank you, Jeff, for everything. Jeff, here we are, man. We're 2-3. We lost to the Bills. We were talking about it before. They were clearly the better team.
Yeah.
This is really, I've been thinking about this podcast, and the game's been recapped a million times, and check out KC Laboratory to go look at sort of all the details. The guys break the game down really well. I don't know if we want to go there, but I just wanted to talk to you sort of broad, big picture thoughts on what's going. I mean, what do you think's wrong right now, Jeff? What do you think's going on? Because this is not what we expected.
Definitely not what we expected. Honestly, this is the first game where, we weren't the better team.
Yeah.
And we lost. So credit to the Buffalo Bills. They won this game. It was no way around it. They were the better team. But it sucks being a guy in a locker room where, you're fighting to get wins and things aren't going your way. And all you can do is put your head down and work. I know being on the offensive side of the ball up until the Buffalo game, they've been putting up 30-plus points a game and, moving the ball pretty well. And then the Buffalo game, it wasn't so well. But looking on the other side of the ball as an offensive player, it's kind of dejecting. I mean, it's like, man, every week you have to come out and give your A game where you have no chance. And that's tough. That's not something that you have conversations with the defense in the locker room, but those tensions are felt in the locker room.
Yeah. If I was a defensive player, especially if I was a leader in that group, right, the Honey Badger, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, those guys, I would make it a point in the locker room in front of everybody, or whether it be a team meeting, to be like, hey, offense, we recognize this is on us and we're going to work together. Like, you need to call this out, I think, as a defensive player, and say, hey, you know what, we're going to get this right. And let the guys on defense know that the leaders, let the leaders on defense, let those guys know, hey, we got to fix this. And let the offense know, hey, we recognize that this is us and we're going to do what it takes to get, turn the ship around. Because you can't, the elephant in the room is too big now. I mean, it's too big it's not just one game. I mean, the defense just looks like they're really, really having a tough time. And I don't know, we talk about injuries and stuff. I don't know. Chris Jones is a beast up front, but I don't know if that closes the gap that much.
Well, I don't think one guy is going to fix it. It's a collective thing. It's a group effort. And when you look at the defense, the two biggest issues to me is tackling and doing your job. I mean, there was a ton of blown coverages against Buffalo. Guys just not in the right position, giving up big plays. And that was the story of the game. Penalties, missed tackles, giving up big plays. You have no chance. And then on top of that, we turned the ball over and didn't get any turnovers. So, I mean, that's a recipe to lose every single game.
Yeah,
you can't. We have to fix those things, let alone winning against a good football team like Buffalo. You have to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to put yourself in position to win. And the things they did, this past week, it wasn't good enough.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about, I was listening to Andy Reid's recent press conference thing that he did, and he was talking about how defenses have changed up the scheme on how they prepare and play Pat Mahomes in that offense. And you probably know this better than you. Obviously, you know this better than I do, Jeff. But he said when, early on in the Pat Mahomes era, he had a lot of teams playing man-to-man stuff and forcing KC to try to beat them, in man, defenses in man. And obviously, that worked out well for Kansas City. He said, now you're getting this deep zone stuff, this cover 4 stuff, and what defenses are basically doing, and he didn't say this, but this is kind of what I got from what he was talking about, was they're going to let Kansas City keep everything in front, right? Take the chunk yards, take the little slants and all that stuff on the inside. We're not going to give you the bombs to Tyreek Hill over the top. We're not going to give you the deep stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let you, you can march down the field you want, but you keep making these mistakes. You keep turning the ball over. You keep having fumbles. And so we'll give you all that little stuff. We won't let you beat us with the big plays, and then we'll take advantage of the mistakes that you're making. And I was just like, that's the best way to play this team right now. Because, like we said, the defense, KC's offense, Pat Mahomes and those guys, you see the way they're playing. They know they have to score every play.
Yeah.
The only chance they have to win is to score every play, because the defense is just, especially when the defense is playing a halfway good to good offense, that offense is going to score whenever they want. And so you see Kansas City's offense trying to cover for them, and they keep making these mistakes, and teams are taking advantage of it. And so I think all of that to say, I think one thing Kansas City can do on offense, we know the defense is the problem. We know there's a lot of issues that need to get fixed over there. I think one thing they can go a long way is if Pat Mahomes brings those guys together and says, hey, look, let's get back to doing what we normally do. Protect the football, run the football well, none of these turnovers, none of these fumbles, and let's march down the field, do what we do our normal stuff. Let's not worry about the defense. Let's not try to make plays where they aren't there. Let's not take these risks. Let's limit the turnovers. I think you cut those turnovers out. That offense still got to go out there and score 40 points a game to be safe. But I think that could go a long way, don't you, and again, not blaming the offense, because it's certainly, if I was on that offense, I would feel the same way. But I'm thinking, you know what? They just need to slow it down, get their swagger back, get their confidence back, and do what they do. And that can cover for, a lot of the stuff that's going on the defense.
Yeah, definitely. We're not blaming Buffalo was a better team.
Yeah, right. No doubt.
That they were going to win that game. They were going to score one more point than us with the way that game is going, regardless of the situation. I think offensively, there's no need to overreact. The Chiefs still have a great offense. Up until, this previous Sunday, they had, 7 third downs?
Yeah.
They punted the ball at one time. It's something crazy like that. So offensively, they're still elite. The turnovers are kind of fluke-like. A lot of the turnovers have been off of drop passes from receivers. You see the one where the defensive end got his hand up, tipped it to himself. That was something where the right tackle probably should have had been engaged with the guy and kept him from jumping up. So there have been mistakes, but not just fluke mistakes, not anything that I'm worried about turnover-wise. The fumbles, that's just ball security. But offensively, they're going to be okay. They're going to score points. I think the answer is, run the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
The defense is playing these soft zones, sitting back, playing, for the underneath throws and sitting deep, not letting Tyreek kill you over the top. So we have to be patient. It's not going to be those 5 and 6 play drives. We're going to have to drive the ball 10 plus plays to get a touchdown. And that's tough, especially for someone with Pat's demeanor. He wants to take the kill shot. That's what makes him so great. But he's going to have to be a little bit more patient. That's not going to be there. Teams are going to do this over and over. We talked about it before the Buffalo game. This is a copycat league.
Yeah.
They're going to see this until they show they can stop it. And Andy Reid spoke about it. Back in 2018, the year where Pat won MVP, there are some games during that year where we struggled against man.
Yeah.
We lost in the AFC Championship. We scored a ton of points in the second half. But what killed us was man. Tight press coverage, making our receivers earn everything, man. And going into the offseason, we knew we had to work on beating man. And thankfully, the first quarter of the season, a lot of teams came out in that man defense thinking they could do what New England did in the FC Championship game, and we killed them for it. So now it's the opposite. All right, now we got to figure out, not just beat zone, but be patient, continue to make the plays we've been making and not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And I think they'll fix it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I like what you said, and Andy Reid said it in his press conference. He said Pat Mahomes is built like, or wired like a linebacker. Yeah. I mean, he wants to hit. He wants to, strike often and, and just bludgeon the team. So I totally get that. And so it's a tension, right, of not slowing that thing, because you want your quarterback like that, right? You want him to be like that, but at the same time saying, hey, just rein it in a little bit to get, to take care of some of these turnovers. And that, because you look at the score, 38 to 20. If you eliminate 2 or 3 of those turnovers, I still, like you said, Buffalo gets the win, but you're going to be a lot closer. I mean, you're never going to beat Buffalo with 4 turnovers. You're not going to beat a good team with 4 turnovers. So I think there's one other point I want to get into before we move on to this, and I want to get your thoughts on. But before I do that, our sponsor, we got to shout out to Tickets for Less. If you're looking to score an unbelievable deal on Chiefs tickets, my friends at Ticket for Less have got you covered. Locally loaned for more than 17 years, ticketsforless.com has the best selection of Chiefs tickets for every game, all without the outrageous taxes or per ticket service fees you find on other sites. Plus, you can use our exclusive KCSN promo code from Tickets for Less to save even more. Use code KCSN21 at checkout to save big on any Chiefs order at ticketsforless.com. That's KCSN21. So, Jeff, I wanted to ask you one more thing before we move on from this and get your thoughts. When we were playing back when I was with the Jets, we obviously were playing New England all the time, and we were playing, Tom Brady and stuff in his prime. And the one thing that the coaches would always bring up to us, and we knew as players, he would always say, "Look, they're front runners. New England Patriots are front runners. They're so used to being ahead. They're so used to being on top that when they hit adversity, they just can't handle it. They can't handle it. And so you got to cut the head off the snake, right? You got to stop Tom Brady." And said, you get one jump on them. You get a touchdown up, 2 touchdowns up, they're going to freeze because they're not used to being in those situations, and they're not going to be able to come back from it. Do you think with some of the younger guys on KC, especially on defense, the way the momentum has kind of been going in the negative direction, do you wonder at all that, or have you thought, because I've been thinking, does that description fit Kansas City? Not totally. I want to say they're front runners, but I do wonder if they're so used to being ahead. A lot of those guys are, from the Pat Mahomes era, so the past 2 or 3 years, are so used to just crushing teams. Not even when you fall behind, used to Pat Mahomes getting you out of those situations. And now that's not the case. I wonder if that's shell shock a little bit for the guys in that locker room. I can't speak to it because I've never been on a team that had an offense like that. But I don't know. What do you think? Am I off? Does that fit it at all? Or
yeah, I mean, that could be the case. Given the core of the team still being pretty much the same, I wouldn't lean toward that because they know they've been down. There've been scenarios where they've had to come back and pull off wins, and they've done it. But I think for some of the younger guys, I mean, they don't know what it's like. Experience is the best teacher. So for them, they're coming into a situation where the expectation is high.
Yeah.
Super high. And the guys that have been there are used to it. They've been in the FC Championship, 3 times in a row, Super Bowl, back-to-back years. So they're used to the expectation. They can perform. But being a free agent that comes into a new organization has this expectation, being a rookie, sometimes, guys can't handle that, and it takes a little bit of time. And it's up to the leaders to get them up to speed and get them to understand that this is what it's like here. This is high stakes. We're not the rabbit, we are, I guess they're hunting us. Everybody, they're hunting us. They want to be where we are. So, we just got to figure it out. I mean, the team has to figure it out. Everyone has to go back to the drawing board. And I know they are coaches, every single position group, they need to all come together and figure this thing out because it could get ugly. I've seen it where it's gone the other way, no matter how talented your team is. I mean, I've been on some really talented teams that have won 2 games.
Yeah.
That's how, hard it is to win in the National Football League. If your team, 1, you have to be good, but 2, you have to have chemistry. If guys aren't on the same page, you're liable to lose every single game. But I don't think this about this team. I think it's just, 1, the defense isn't very good. We can all agree on that right now. But there's been some bad luck. I mean, we lost some. I mean, the Baltimore game, for instance, like some of those games, even the Chargers game. I mean, like those are games that we should have won that we didn't.
Right.
I know hopefully we don't look back at the end of the year and say, God, if we won one of those two, we'd be in the playoffs. But I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's funny when you look at the schedule, you're jumping on the guys now, and deservingly so. Right? I mean, they haven't been playing well on defense, especially. But you take away one or two of those turnovers in the past couple games, this is easily a 4-1 team right now against the Browns, the Ravens, LA, and then Buffalo. I mean, it's not like they've had an easy start to the year. You're right. They have the leaders. They have, obviously, we've said it a bunch, this whole year. You got Andy Reid. You got the right leaders. You got the right guys in that locker room to get it right. They will do it. And again, if it's going to happen at any point in time, you'd rather it happen now at the beginning of the season where they can fix the kinks, get the stuff right, and get back on the right track. You don't want this kind of breakdown like we've seen. I always think of the 2013 team where you start to have a breakdown week 9, week 10, where things start to fall apart. So they'll get it right, Jeff. I believe that. But this was the first time in a long time that I agree with you that, and maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but I said, wow, that, Buffalo is a lot better than Kansas City. Like they
at this point they are. I mean, you have to be honest. As much as we love the Chiefs, as we former players, and you can't be biased. You gotta go by what you see, and what we saw on Sunday. They were the better team, and we lost some games early this year where I was like, no, we were the better team. We should have won that one.
Right.
This one, they were the better team. So I mean, it is what it is. We'll get better. Hopefully, they're not the better team down the stretch when it counts. But as of now, they were, and we got some soul searching to do, and we need to figure out how to win some football games. I mean, there's 12 games left, and we'll probably be the favorite in 10 of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's tons of opportunities to win football games.
Right. Yeah. This next week's a perfect one, heading out to Washington. And this is a team that is primed and ready for these guys to beat. But before we move on to that, I did want to – I thought something that'd be interesting for you and I to talk about, especially me, because I know a lot of times this happened to me in my career. But, some of those coverage breakdowns we saw last week, you look and you say, Sorensen looks like he's struggling. Looks like a couple of those were on Dan. And then you listen to Andy's press conference and he says, Dan just missed the coverage. And, he's in a tough position. And you were in a position like this. Defensive line is probably the least noticeable. But he's in a tough position where he makes a mistake like that, and you're going to see it. You're going to know it. You're going to know it's him, and it looks bad. And so I wanted to talk to our listeners about what it's like to be a player going through a time where you're obviously you're part of the problem, right? And everybody knows it. The fans know it. The team knows it. I mean, you see all the pictures with the honey badger with his hands out like this, looking at Dan. So, I've been there, and I know how much it hurts. And it's hard, not just on you, but on your family. I remember my wife would go on Twitter and argue with people who were saying bad things about me. And my family would call up and they wouldn't say anything directly, but they would say, how you doing? You okay? Like, cause I knew that they knew that everybody was on me. And, there are 2 times in my career I think of that were really obvious. There was, and again, playing defensive line, a lot of your mistakes get, shaped. Like you give up a sack, everybody knows it was you. The camera's on you. There's a lot of stuff going on the defensive line where I'm making mistakes and nobody has any idea. In fact, there are a lot of times I made plays making a mistake and everybody's giving me, saying good job. And I went, I backdoored a double team or something and just got lucky having to trip up and get a tackle. But there were 2 times in my career that were obvious. There was one time we were playing Atlanta in 2009 with the Jets, and I had just switched from playing in an Eric Mangini type system, which is, you take on a double team by taking a knee. So as soon as you engage, you drop to your knee, you shed the guy in front of you, and you just try to cause a pile. Rex Ryan played it differently. Rex Ryan said, when you get a double team, you want to hip into it. You want to keep your feet, hip into it, and try to stay in there so that you can still be involved and be a part of the play. And we were playing Atlanta, and we needed to make a stop. And if we made the stop, we get the ball back to our offense, and we have a chance to win the game. If Atlanta gets the first down, they can run the ball out and the game over. And it's a 3rd and short play, and I'm at that 3 technique position. And I fire off a ball, and I start to play it like I'm playing it correctly. And then I just have one of those moments where I go back into my old thinking, and I go and I drop to my knee. And what that does is the guard goes right back up onto the backer. The tackle washes me down, and they pick up the first down. And everybody saw it. Everybody knew I was at the point of attack. Atlanta gets the first down, and now they can run the ball out, and we lose. And I just remember the guys knew it was me. The fans knew it was me. My family knew it was me. And like I cost us. And I've never experienced, and thank God for it, I've never experienced anything as bad in the real world. It's like the pit in your stomach when you know that everybody knows that you cost the game, or that you made these awful mistakes that really hurt the team. There is no despair. I mean, there's despair out there like that. Trust me. But it was just awful. Awful. I mean, do you have any?
I got a feel though. I mean, O-line is different, man. We played 70 plays in the game, and if you have 3 bad plays, you feel like a piece of crap. One of those plays is a sack. You got a false start, a holding. Give up a TFL, and you just feel like an absolute piece of crap. I remember my freshman season. We were playing Minnesota, and it was a close game, and it was 3rd down. I think we're in the red zone. We're close to the red zone, and I give up a sack, strip, fumble, touchdown, and we lose the game.
Oh.
And I can remember everybody knew, the commentators talking about, hey, Illinois was about to drive in, to score the game-winning touchdown, and my coaches picked me up, man. I was a freshman. I was so happy for that.
Yeah.
But young guys are like, man, we lost the game because of you, man. Like, golly. But one of the worst parts about that, one, you feel like crap. No one's more critical of themselves than great players.
Right.
And I don't care what you feel about any player in the NFL. All these guys are great players. They've made it to the mountaintop. They got something to them. So we all have that thing inside of us where we're ultra critical of ourselves, where no one's harder on us more than us. So one of the worst things is knowing you messed up and having to go into the film room and watch it over and over and over. You're hoping like, man, I hope they skip this play.
Yeah.
But you just got to man up. You got to man up. You got to understand. You got to be accountable. You know what you've done wrong, and you just got to fix it. And I think some of the best moments in my career were my worst moments because I learned from them. Those moments where I made that critical mistake, or I gave up that sack. That pushed me even harder and made me want to do so much better that it made me a better player. So, especially for someone like Dan. Dan had a rough game. I mean, everyone saw it, but Dan is the ultimate pro.
Yeah.
First in, last to leave. And one of the things that I know more than missing any tackle, more than, dropping an interception or getting beat, blowing an assignment, an MA, a missed assignment, that's something that you can control.
Right.
And I know that bothers him more than anything, missing an assignment more than anything else, because that's something that's just fundamentals. That's knowing what to do. That's doing your job. And he's going to get that right. And there's a ton of other things to get right, but that for sure, I know he'll get that right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when you look at what Dan has done, and I know the NFL is about what have you done for me lately, but I mean, Dan, you can look at a lot of Dan's resume and there are some crucial plays on there that are part of the reason, and if not were the reason that this team's playing in Super Bowls and winning Super Bowl. I mean, he made some incredibly key plays.
Yeah, he's for a fact. I mean, I wouldn't have a ring without Dan. So shout out to Dirty Dan.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the spark plug. He's made some critical plays. It seems like every single game he makes a game-winning play. He's going through a tough stretch right now. We all have those moments as professional athletes, unless you're like a Hall of Famer. I mean, those guys, they have those too, but they're very rare.
Yeah.
But most guys have stretches where it's pretty tough. It just happens to be a stretch where we can all see it. So Dan's going to get it right. We're with you. We support you, brother.
Yeah, brother. No doubt. No question. Yeah, I remember seeing Revis getting beat by Randy Moss over the top.
Yeah.
So even the greatest get. I mean, everybody gets paid. So, yeah, brother. Well, we can talk about Washington. I think that, I mean, there's nothing really to say other than I think this is a perfect time for just another monumental bounce back. Like, let's get everything back on track, get the gears rolling. This is the perfect team to do it to. And you got to go into Washington with the mindset of we have to murder these guys. Yeah. Like, this cannot be like enough of this crap. Bury the football from the last game. We're coming in here and we're coming for the kill, right? These guys got to be more motivated, more full of hate than they've ever been to get this stuff right and really make a statement against Washington that, look, this stuff is done. I mean, do you see it any other way?
Yeah, man, it's a GPOT, get back on track game. This is one of the ones where it's prime. I mean, offensively, Washington, they have some, weapons, but I mean, the quarterback isn't the greatest. So this should be a game where the defense is able to, play well enough. Offensively, Washington has a really good front seven. I mean, Chase Young. I mean, every single guy across the front's a former first-round pick, and they're good players. So that's going to be a test for sure. But I can't see any other way but knowing that their backs are against the wall and they have to win the game that they're supposed to win.
Right.
I see the Chiefs pulling this one out. And it'll make me feel better to make the entire Chiefs Kingdom feel better.
Yeah, Chiefs Kingdom. We want to come back here next week talking about this W and getting things right. I did want to end on this, Jeff, because you're right. There's nothing more to say here. We just got to get it right. We've been saying it every week. Like, they just got to go out and do it. I mean, there's no special breakdown or anything like that. I mean, this is just, like you said, get back on track. We did have an interesting situation with Jon Gruden in Oakland. It's like it's all this stuff going on. It's still better to be a Chief than a Raider any day. You saw these emails come out, and I have so many questions about all of this stuff. But I did want to ask you, as a person of color who spent so many years in the NFL and in locker rooms, what is the NFL like for a person of color? Because this is really and like, I'm not one. I can't speak on it, but it just seems like an outlier. I think people get the impression from this that this is commonplace. And I just was curious maybe this isn't the right way to approach, but I guess what are your thoughts on this situation and probably just race in the locker room?
I think from a player perspective, like being a player, like, I mean, we're 70% in the league, so we dominate that aspect of it. Yeah. So it's not seen on that front, but from a leadership position, like head coach, GM, president of a team, there's not enough representation. You can't tell me that there's not enough qualified guys. We got a guy in Kansas City, and Coach EB, who should have been a head coach 2-3 years ago.
Right. And
we can speculate and we can say, he doesn't interview well, or he doesn't call the plays. Make up all these different excuses.
Right.
What it comes down to, it's a bias, and it's a bias that I wouldn't necessarily say that it's all racism, but people hire or more geared to hiring people that look like them.
Yeah.
You trust someone that looks like you, and it's something that you have to literally look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way.
Right.
Did I not give this guy a fair shot? Did I not, listen to him in the interview? I mean, no disrespect to, guys like, I can remember when Joe Judge got hired as a special team coordinator from New England to becoming a head coach. How did he skip all of those steps over a guy like EB who just broke a ton of records as an offensive coordinator?
Right.
You can think of so many different scenarios where, this is the case, and all you can do is wonder is race an issue with this? And you'd have to be blind not to look at it that way. I mean, you can remove yourself, look at it from a different perspective. That's all I have to say for people that, that doesn't see it that way. Look at it from a different perspective and just understand, fair is fair. And I'm not saying just give people jobs just because of the color of their skin. That's not what I'm saying. But if a guy is qualified, give him a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a matter of sort of recognizing that bias in yourself. Like you said, you have to be intentional about that and thinking, okay, am I, is this person just not qualified, or am I looking at this?
Am I looking at the wrong way?
Yeah. Yeah.
For the longest, it was that way with quarterbacks. Look at the league.
Right.
You telling me all of a sudden that, black quarterbacks just got good overnight? There's always been good black quarterbacks. It was just ownership and coaches looking at themselves saying, hey, we're looking at this the wrong way. These guys can actually play this position. Same with head coaches, same with presidents.
Right.
Just give people opportunities, for those roles, and you'll see the result.
Because, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong here. But I feel like within the locker room as players, like you said, I mean, the locker room is more diverse than anywhere. Yeah. But it didn't, I don't know if I can't remember one race issue as a player in my entire, 9 years in the NFL, being, in all those different locker rooms all year long. It just was not something, it was almost something that guys would joke about because it would be happening outside the locker room. But within the locker room, it just was like.
No, not player to player. I never once felt that.
Which made this so weird. That's what this was like. This is like, wow, I'm really surprised. But I was, and maybe I shouldn't be, but I was just
I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Even with the Gruden thing, when it first came out, I was like, that was kind of insensitive.
Yeah.
Kind of towing the line for saying something like that. But the more stuff that came out, it's more leaning toward, this is who this guy is.
Yeah.
Just kind of hateful, which sucks, but you gotta call it what it is. I mean, everyone read the transcripts, and people say, "Oh, that was a long time ago," but this is over the course of 7 years. I mean, most recently in like 2018. So, I mean, I know people change, but you got to hold people accountable at some point.
Right.
And that's just the way the world works. If someone makes a mistake and repeatedly makes a mistake, then you got to hold them accountable.
These are the same guys that are going out every week and putting it all on the line, obviously for them and their families, but it affects, Gruden and everybody.
No, yeah. It's the people that, I mean, I'm one of those people, but, groups of people that, he said stuff about, that can be offensive sometimes. I try to not let stuff like that get to me, I keep it trucking, but that does affect a lot of people. So you got to be, words do hurt. I mean, I know, some people are like, that doesn't hurt anyone, but words hurt people sometimes, especially people in marginalized groups. So you gotta understand that, those are sensitive topics. You got to make sure that, what you're saying, not only what you're saying, but what you're doing is good in the world. So, I mean, sucks for the players, for the Raiders, the entire organization.
I feel
Derek Carr, all those people. But what was supposed to happen happened.
Yeah. I can't imagine, being like Carl. When you look at those comments, the guys. I mean, I would just man, that would be killer. It's hard to make sense of.
That's tough. I mean, and I'm sure the players that are in that locker room probably have a totally different perspective.
Right.
About Jon Gruden. I mean, you heard Mike Tirico. He worked with him, for years on Monday Night Football. He has a totally different perspective. But the one thing is, like, you never know someone's true colors. Like, you just don't know. I mean, he was a totally different person with Mike. Mike saw a totally different Jon.
Right.
And Jon felt comfortable enough to send emails like that to, another white guy and Bruce Allen. And that was just their relationship. So I challenge everyone, like, be true to yourself. If that's who you are, be that person with everyone.
Yeah.
I know it's a crappy take, but that's the truth. At least the true colors of someone instead of, getting caught off guard.
And if there's any sort of silver lining in any of this, is it continues to bring this stuff to the forefront to recognize, hey, this is, even in an area like the NFL, in an arena like the NFL, where you're saying it's 70% people of color, this is still an issue, and especially in upper management, coaching positions, things like that. And so things like this, if there's any good to come out of this, not that it's ever good, but if there's any good to come out of it, just continue to bring awareness to the fact that we need to keep thinking about these things and working to move forward and get better. But yeah, no, it was just so bizarre. I couldn't go without asking you to get your thoughts on that, because it was just
man. I'll give you my thoughts for sure. I think he has no choice but to get better from this. And not only that, I mean, anyone that has those type of feelings about, women, about, people's, sexual preference,
right,
people color their skin, like, I challenge you to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm looking at this the wrong way, maybe I can learn from Jon and learn that, that's not the way to think. So,
yeah,
I mean, as bad as it is right now, there's some good that can come from it, from learning experiences.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy thing. Again, great. Much better to be a Chief. You don't see that. You find any emails of Andy Reid like that. So, but yeah, brother. All right, Chiefs Kingdom. That stuff behind us, the loss behind us. Let's get this W, go into Washington, get this win. Let's come next week, Jeff, and talk about how the Chiefs are back on track and how we're moving forward, brother. So thank you, Chiefs Kingdom, for turning in. Jeff, thank you so much for your time again, brother. And we'll see you all next week.
Go Chiefs.